So hello everybody. Today I'm going to be speaking about the oligarchy. So, what is an oligarchy truthfully? What is it all about and how is it in Plato's words, how is it a devolution from the democracy and monarchy and aristocracy? So it comes from the two words oligos meaning few and archo meaning to rule or command. And that is basically what oligarchy is. The two words form oligarchia, oligarchia. And basically, what oligarchy is, it's an extreme form of selfishness in the government, and where the leaders they're so corrupted and they're so disillusioned with money, power, greed, status, and they form this solo state in where they take all the money, they take everything for themselves. They're very greedy, very wanton. They swallow up all the resources of the people, of the land, and then they keep it for themselves and they store it for themselves. And in doing so, they take part in a behavior called rent seeking behavior. I think some of you have heard that from Professor Jiang's lectures. And I like the word, I don't really hear a lot of people use the word rent seeking behavior. In other words, they want money. In other words, they want to get as much money, to juice as much money as they can from the civilians, from the people. And also, the main reason why, according to both Plato and to other sources, the main reason as to why the oligarchy is a devolution from democracy is because the main point is that the oligarchy loses its focus on virtue, focus on honor, focus on even prowess, even skill, and it totally dislodges, totally removes this from its psychology and philosophy, and puts into puts in instead greed and avariciousness. And that's exactly the word that Plato actually uses in his book, in where he says the democratic son sees his father, democracy, as a failure, or has failed, or was taken advantage of in some sort of way. And he basically, because of this, the son of democracy, he starts to learn other tactics of survival, such as money making, such as monopolizing property, such as hoarding wealth, uh, trying to get rent from every single behavior, uh, losing his virtuousness, losing honor, losing um, gratefulness and gratitude, and what's that thing? He lost the virtue of sharing and things like this, and he becomes a son of avarice, right? He becomes a very avaricious person, right? Very wanton person, lustful, greedy, so on and so forth. So basically, that is the uncle. Uncle's pumping out some stuff right there, but yeah, that's basically what an oligarch is. So the oligarch, you could say, is very common nowadays. It's very democratic, and capitalist countries are very prone to oligarchy. Um, According to Plato, democracy will be the next devolution in his line of governments. But even a democracy can interchange like this, can go back and forth between an oligarchy and a democracy, because an oligarchy, truthfully, can be concealed. That's why I wore the shirt, because politicians and government leaders, they like to say lots of fancy, flowery speeches, flowery words. You know, they love to tell you one thing, but then behind you, they're doing something else. You know, Duterte, well, the president of the Philippines, was one of the people who actually did what he said he would do, and people got mad at him. I'm not saying that what he did was the best, but he had to do what he had to do, because anyone who lives in the Philippines knows how bad the situation there is. So, so all in all, the I would say democracy and oligarchy, very very easy to fluctuate between the two. It's very easy to fluctuate between the two. So you have to be careful who you're voting for in a democracy. And if you're not in a democracy, you have to be very careful of who is holding your money, who's holding your property, who's holding your assets, and make sure you're able to move around with what you have, you know, because one day, even right now, I see that even Europe has that one world, one world currency planned up with the digital ID, and AI is taking all of our facial scans and you know facial recognition technology. We can't go anywhere without having a certain scan go through our face. Maybe at the airport, maybe at the subway station. Control for the sake of safety has been monopolized so greatly that we don't even know that it's already happening before our eyes. That's why, hence the T-shirt. Hence the T-shirt. You know, people say one thing, but they actually want another thing. They disguise it. A wolf in sheep's clothing. Actually, before we end the video, I wanna speak. Can an oligarch actually be a good thing? Can it be a good thing? And in some situations, I would say it's a matter of perspective. It's really a matter of perspective because you know a a good person, good as I mean virtuous and truly good, truly good. What's the word? An altruistic, virtuous person, honorable person. Sometimes he has to do what he has to do, and he would have to make drastic decisions that would change the course, let's say, of a country or of a society's history, right? So sometimes it depends. If the people want him, it doesn't necessarily mean that's a good thing. Just because people want somebody in or vote somebody in doesn't mean it's a good thing. They could have been tricked. They could have been fooled. Hence the T-shirt. But the the main thing is actually the motive and the goal of the oligarch or the person holding the power, right? That's the real. That's the real deciding factor. So, can it be a good thing? I would say it's a matter of perspective. It's really a matter of perspective. Shout out, Uncle. Right. Having said that, thank you guys for watching this video. I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.